Hello, how are you? Good. When we're done, I'll show you my map.
Your what?
My map of the trail. On. Let me call the City Commission meeting of April 3rd, 2018 to order. I'm going to ask the clerk for roll call.
Mayor Weissman,
Here.
Vice Mayor Shelley,
Here.
Commissioner Landman,
Here.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Here.
Commissioner Mizrahi,
Here.
Commissioner Narodsky,
Here.
Commissioner Weinberg,
Here.
Mrs. Grant,
Here.
Mr. Wolfen. You have a quorum.
Thank you so much. I'm going to request that Eden Lapido please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated.
I don't know if everybody, but she said, please be seated. Okay. We're going to have to get somebody to fix it at some time. Now, I'll deal with it tonight. I'm going to ask the city manager if there are any deletions or additions to the agenda.
No changes to the agenda, Mayor.
Okay, the next order of business is special presentations, and I'm going to ask the city manager to present the Employee Service Awards.
Good evening, and it is my pleasure, along with our Director of Development Services, Joanne Carr, to ask Barry Glading to come up and receive his award for 15 years of service to the City of Aventura. Thank you so much, Barry.
It's really pretty.
And again, my pleasure to have Hasey Martin join us, and 10 years with the City of Aventura Police Department. Congratulations.
Okay, next on our agenda are our school reports. So once again, from ACES, I'm going to request that Eden Lapido please provide us with the ACES update.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Eden Lapida, and I'm an 8th grader at ACES. It is my 9th and unfortunately last year attending this wonderful school, and it's my pleasure to share with you some of the exciting things we're doing. We continue to look for ways to give back to the community. Our National Junior Honor Society members recently raised over $1,000 to be donated to the Lotus House, an organization in which we volunteer our time earlier this school year to support women and children in crisis. We also completed a week-long event to educate students regarding cystic fibrosis and raised over $7,000 for this cause. This was very exciting because students were very proud to be cure finders. Additionally, our annual Saturday school program wrapped up their last session just before spring break. We had over 80 students participate in the last 10-week program, which focuses on language arts and math skills. This past month, our March Coffee Connection was well attended, and Chief Police Brian Piggy provided parents with information on school safety. This week, or the week before spring break, was Teacher Appreciation Week. The TAW committee, being led by dedicated parents, made sure our amazing teachers felt especially appreciated. Teachers were treated to daily breakfast and lunch, along with many other treats throughout the week. This year's theme was One Team, One Family. For this year's sports-themed event, there was a special TAW rally to the end of the week in which Bernie, the Miami Heat mascot, attended. Teachers were also treated to inspirational speeches from two former NFL players, Jay Fiedler and Twan Russell of the Miami Dolphins. Our ACES middle school dance students traveled to Orlando, Florida, where they participated in a Disney dance workshop. On March 14th, ACES participated in the Cadena Social Entrepreneurship Innovative Contest, which is a way for students to showcase innovative ideas that focus on strategies for emergency aid to vulnerable communities worldwide. 87 projects were submitted to the Cadena group this year. Only 11 were selected to compete on March 14th. Of those 11 selected, 3 were ACES students. One of those projects was the overall third-place winner. At ACES, we're always looking for new ways to engage and facilitate learning for our students. Kindergarten students ventured into unexplored territory by participating in their first Mystery Hangout. A Mystery Hangout allows students from different places to talk to each other and learn a little more about their region or culture. The first graders are embarking on their research projects on dinosaurs. As part of their research, they're going to be having a Skype conversation with Dr. Jack Horner, a well-known paleontologist and consultant on all of the Jurassic Park movies. Second grade classes are taking pen pals to the next level by connecting globally with classes in China and Massachusetts using Flipgrid. Instead of the traditional letters, students will be recording their responses and replies to one another using video. Coming up, we have several field trips planned for this month. Next Tuesday, our middle school TV production class will be traveling to visit ABC 10 News, where they will be getting a behind-the-scenes look at a professional news operation. As you can see, there are a lot of things going on and a lot more to come. Thank you for the opportunity to share a few recent highlights from ACES, where excellence is the expectation, not the exception. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you. And Eden, let me apologize for mispronouncing your name.
No problem.
And I want to welcome your sister, Megrev, here tonight, a former ACES student and a high school student now. The next report that we will have is from Aventura Waterways, so I'm going to ask Chloe Freitas to please come forward.
Good evening, council members. My name is Chloe Freitas, and I am the president of the National Junior Honor Society Club at Aventura Waterways K-8 Center. I am also in the International Finance Academy, one of the 2 academies students may join at our school. I am here to discuss all the wonderful things our school has done in the past month and will do in the near future. I would like to start with some news about our Model United Nations team that I have the pleasure of being lead delegate for. If you recall, my colleague Dylan Schaffman recently informed this commission that we were going to partake in the district competition. I am very pleased to inform everyone here today that we have won Best School for the 5th year in a row. I am here with our award that we won at the competition. On the 21st, a group of 32 dedicated members of our team, including this speaker, traveled to New York City to participate in an international competition. We did outstandingly and won more first and second place awards than any other school. In March, Miss Bass and our orchestra performed at Disney's Performing Arts activity alongside other schools in Miami-Dade County. 7th grade STEAM students are also going to Biscayne Nature Center on April 10th to learn more about South Florida's ecosystem. Students will be catching different organisms and learning about their very important role in an ecosystem. Students in 8th grade also recently competed in the Green Cuisine Fairchild Challenge, where they created a vegetarian meal with ingredients that are found on the International Space Station. 6th grade students created either animal or plant cells using edible parts to help them learn about the different organelles within a cell and their functions. Our basketball team recently won their first game, and we could not be more excited for the season. We have a game tomorrow as well. The 6th and 7th graders also recently had their spring dance organized by the National Junior Honor Society Club. Lastly, EOC and FSA preparations have commenced with activities such as Science Boot Camp to aid 8th grade students with their Science FCAT. I am beyond honored to have the opportunity to represent our school at this council meeting and grateful that I could share just a small portion of the great things our school does for its students. I would just like to end this with a quick sign of gratitude. Most recently, we were granted an assigned Aventura police officer to help safeguard our students at the main campus. We are very appreciative that this commission recognized the urgency of protecting all of Aventura's students. Thank you very much.
One thing I can say is we have an abundance of very special students in Aventura. Let's give them a hand. Absolutely, Commissioner Weinberg.
I just wanted to say, going out on a limb, I'm going to assume that that's Mom videotaping. So if you email the clerk, she'll be able to get you a DVD of everything that you just saw. You're welcome. Thank you.
Frida, you know that. Okay. It's now my pleasure, and it's also my honor and a duty to deliver the State of the City address for the City of Aventura. To the residents and businesses of the great city of Aventura, I'm going to present this year's State of the City report. Our fiscal year blew out with the strong winds of Hurricane Irma in early September. While we were fortunate not to get a direct hit from the storm, as we all know, our community was impacted by debris, downed trees, street lights, and damage to park structures. I was so proud of our employees' preparation and response before, during, and after the storm, and pleased that we were able to clear the streets of debris and replant trees and repair structures in more than a timely manner. Chief Pegues, Joe, kudos to both of you. There were many nights that you went without sleep so that our city would be operational when the storm went by. The fiscal year of 2017 also saw the culmination of many years of planning with the City Commission's approval of our own charter high school. I'm going to take a line, promises made, promises kept. It will be 4 years ago that as part of my campaign, I made it a campaign issue. And it could not have been accomplished without the rest of the people sitting here and working on this very ambitious project. In September, we adopted a resolution authorizing the filing of the application with the Miami-Dade School Board to open the 800-student school on 2 acres adjacent to Waterways Park. The project is well on its way, with the city closing on the land and assembling financing. And we will welcome students to the new facility, which will include a gymnasium that will be available to the school and the community at large in August 2019. This school not only provides an additional educational choice for our children, it promises to become a shining beacon for our community. The city is able to support this and similar capital projects because of our strong financial position, which is made possible in part through economic development. Several significant additions to our community came online in 2017, including the opening of the Aventura Mall addition, the AC Hotel, and the Aventura Hospital emergency room expansion. There are many more projects in the works for 2018, which will add to the excitement and vitality of our city. The model of privatizing many service areas of the city's operations over the years has served this city well and has allowed for a more cost-effective delivery system as compared with the traditional government structure. We're firm in our knowledge that we must continue to remain prudent and conservative in our financial management of the city. We are proud of the fact that after 22 years, the city's tax rate remains the lowest in the county, while we've maintained a high standard of providing services to the community. It also has never been raised in 22 years. It remains at 1.27. I mean, it's an incredible testimony to the commissioners before us and the management of the city before us. Because of the fiscal stability of this city, we have received the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement in Financial Reporting and Distinguished Budget Award for the 21st and 10th year in a row. We continue to look for ways to assist our residents in getting around town, and I'll tell you, it's getting more challenging by the day. The city's bike share program, Aventura B-Cycle ridership, continues to grow, and we added a 6th location along the Don Sofer Trail at East Country Club Yacht Club Way recently. Another transportation is our popular shuttle bus, with monthly ridership approaching 25,000. We're pleased to be offering a new route in the near future. This past year, your commission focused on expanding facilities and special events that magnify our sense of community and promote community involvement. The latest addition to our great park system, Peace Park on Northeast 188th Street, provides playgrounds for all age groups and outside exercise equipment for adults to utilize while they jog, walk along the promenade on the Intercoastal Highway. Special events include our annual Founders Day celebration, with over 8,300 people in attendance this year. Additional movie nights in Founders Park, the Halloween Harvest event, the ride with the Aventura Police bike-a-thon, and this year we're adding a wine, cheese, and jazz event for the enjoyment of our residents. I look forward to seeing you at Arthur Snyder Park for this event on April 14th. Our Arts and Cultural Center continues to offer a wide variety of entertainment and options for all ages. The 2018-2019 season will include theater, music, comedy, and variety performances. Please visit aventuracenter.org for performance and ticket information. To find out about these events, sign up for My Aventura e-notifications on our website. And it's important to know the website, cityofaventura.com. I think that's a pretty easy one to remember. Follow us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We're really getting there. Speaking of community involvement, the Commission created a youth advisory committee and appointed 7 local high school students to be part of the first participants. We look forward to hearing from these young people and working with them on various educational, civic, and community events and activities. In addition to the Youth Advisory Committee, the city's had other opportunities available for those civic-minded residents. I would like to thank the members of our Community Services Board and the Arts and Cultural Center Advisory Board for your service and dedication and contributions to this community. And I see we have 2 members here today. I want to personally thank Sandy Kaplan and Bonnie Lauderman for your service. The safety of our residents, businesses, and visitors remain a high priority. The men and women of our police department work tirelessly with the various condominiums, businesses, and religious institutions to maintain our reputation for a safe community in which to live, work, and play. This past year, the budget provided for the addition of 4 sworn law enforcement officers that will enhance safety and security as part of the Aventura Mall addition. In addition, expanded social media and community outreach initiatives, including the assignment of an officer to each community and business district, were implemented in order to engage the community in joint problem solving and crime prevention techniques. Aventura began celebrating 22 years of history in 2017. The years since our boundary lines were drawn, we've been blessed with incredible prosperity. But that doesn't just happen. From our founding days, the city has been governed by elected leaders who are selfless, dedicated, exceptionally bright. As we have transitioned from one commission to another, innovation has prospered, and politics has never taken precedence over people-driven policy. Inside the city of Aventura, the quality of life of our residents has always been our first priority. This city commission is no exception. So I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge my partners in this city of excellence. Vice Mayor Robert Shelley, Commissioner Denise Landman, Commissioner Dr. Linda Marks, Commissioner Gladys Mizrahi, Commissioner Mark Naratsky, and Commissioner Howard Weinberg. What you see are these people on commission night. What you don't see is all the work and effort they put in between the meetings, and we just couldn't do it without you. I thank all of you for the deep commitment you have to this city. In closing, I would really like to thank once again our former city manager, Eric Soroka, for his 22 years of service to our community. We wish Eric the best in his retirement, and we will truly miss him. But I also want to welcome our new city manager, Susan Grant, and wish her every success working for and with our community in the future. I want to take this opportunity to thank the members of our community for their valuable support. The future looks pretty bright from where I sit, and I know that because of all of you, Aventura will be ready to address all future challenges and opportunities. Thank you. Okay, I haven't seen Nathaniel Manor, so I'm just going to, if he comes in, I'll insert him into the program. But at this moment, I just want to vary from the printed agenda. We have a very special birthday today. So could we take a minute and wish Joanne Carr happy birthday? I am not going to embarrass her or us by asking us to sing, but Joanne, happy birthday. Okay, you can lead it, Mr. Book. Birthday to you. Happy birthday. Big Rev, come on, you can sing. Dear Joanne, happy birthday to you. Thank you. We have some very important legislative updates tonight. And the first person on our agenda, and I really want to personally thank her, the information that this commission received every single week was so important to our plans and being able to maintain what we needed to know from Tallahassee. It was invaluable information. I want to thank you for all your efforts in Tallahassee on behalf of the city of Aventura. And I want to introduce to all of you, again tonight, Senator Daphne Campbell, and she will bring to us her legislative updates. Please, you can begin.
I could start.
Yep.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners, and good evening, all the city, all residents and constituents. I would like to thank you for your help and support during the 2018 legislative session. In the Senate, I have worked tirelessly to ensure that we do what we need for the diverse communities throughout the state of Florida. This year, due to a few disagreements between the Senate and our budget, the legislature was forced into a short extended session that ran until March 11, 2018. The 2018 legislative session presented a variety of different issues that sent members of both the House and Senate into an array of emotions. The historic legislation involving gun control and school safety was the main focal point this year, as well as other issues such as condominium associations, education, transportation, and the budget. Please know that I have listened to you on all of these very important issues. I thank you for utilizing your voice and allowing it to be heard in Tallahassee. Throughout this process, I have worked extremely hard to see that each city, town, and village within my district received thoughtful consideration from both the House and Senate presiding officers and budget chairs. I held one-on-one meetings, provided additional information when asked, and pushed as hard as I could to ensure that all my cities were well represented. Some legislation made it to the Senate floor for a vote, and some made it to the governor's desk for signature, but not all legislation was heard. The same can be said regarding appropriations. Some projects were included in the final budget and others were not. I want to ensure you that regardless of the outcome for the legislative session, I have worked tirelessly on your behalf in Tallahassee. Senate District 38 is a very diverse district with so much to offer the state of Florida. Through your continued support, I am hopeful that together we could build a stronger District 38 that rivals every district in the state. Again, thank you, and I look forward to continue working with you all. Sincerely, Daphne Campbell, Senate District 38. And I have to thank the mayor, the vice mayor, the commissioners for support. And because of that, before I give you the update, I do have a resolution, written in the Senate for Aventura City of Aventura for celebrating 23rd year anniversary this year. And the mayor going to read it, and I'm going to ask, my friend, my brother, Ron Brook, to come forward. We're going to present that together, and Representative Joe Geller together, because Ron Brook has been very, very supportive of the resolution as well. Madam Mayor?
Thank you. Florida Senate Resolution. A resolution recognizing the City of Aventura on the occasion of the 23rd anniversary of its incorporation. Whereas in 1995, the City of Aventura became a new city under its own government in Miami-Dade County. And whereas the City of Aventura is home to the luxury resort Turnberry Isle and to the Aventura Mall, one of the largest indoor retail emporiums in the United States. And whereas the City of Aventura Police Department has grown to include 37 civilian and 83 sworn personnel and has earned an outstanding reputation as a key component in making Aventura a city of excellence for citizens and visitors alike. And whereas the City of Aventura is led by Mayor Enid Wiseman, City Manager Susan Grant, and Commissioner Linda Marks, Denise Landman, Howard Weinberg, Robert Shelley, Gladys Mizrahi, and Mark Narofsky. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Senate of the State of Florida that the City of Aventura is recognized on the occasion of the 23rd anniversary of its incorporation. This is signed by Joe Negron, President of the Senate, and it was read into the record.
Come forward, Mayor and the commissioners, to receive the resolution.
Come on.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, commissioners. Anyway, in the booklet we pass out have everything in it, and all the legislation for 2018 legislations. We have, let me go over 2018 gun legislation filed prior to the passage of SB 7026, Public Safety Act. In the booklet, I have the 2018, all the bills headed to the governor's desk. We have legislation signed by the governor and became law. So the booklet have all the information on the budget. The budget this year is 87. I believe we have the budget. Total budget is $88.7 billion. And with the support of One Brook, Aventura did have, one project in the budget. I believe he's going to speak as well. But I put this together for you to see what is went on to Tallahassee, all the appropriations, the bill passes, and all the bill signed by Governor Scott, who became law, and you could read all that. But I could tell you Tallahassee was challenging this year. It was a big fight between the two, chambers, but I made it through. I did a very successful 2 years as your senator, and I could say thank you to all of you for support. Thank you for, I remember, Dr. Linda Marks, Gladys, and the vice mayor, the mayor, you all came, and Mark, you came to Tallahassee and to advocate for the city. I thank you guys from the bottom of my heart, and like I said, I'm hoping, your support continued towards me. So I thank all of you, all constituents as well, for support. I love you all, and my door is open for you. Whatever you need, you could call me anytime. In the booklet, have my cell number, everything in it. Reach out to me. And One Brook, I thank you a lot. You've been my support for 8 years in office. I don't know how to thank you enough. We from the same mom or the same dad. That's my brother here. But like I said, one word: thank you, thank you, thank you, and I love you all.
And Senator, I have to say to you, you made both Commissioner Weinberg and I very welcome in Tallahassee. Your office was open to us. Tallahassee knew we were in the chambers because of your efforts, Representative Geller, and Ron Book's efforts. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for that. I know it was a rough session.
Yes.
The only thing I really would ask for is next go around, let's try and do a little better on HB 5001. 47 cents a child does not allow us to give a quality education to anybody, and I know you know that, and that'll be a good fight for the next term.
Well, I know that this is why I did not vote for the budget, even though, I have money in the budget. I voted against it. I think it was unfair for, the money they gave to public school was unfair. I did vote against it. So I'm here to support you, and I'm here to voice for you as usual.
And again, I thank you for all the information you've provided us every week of session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, too.
Next, we have our Representative Joseph Geller.
Is this thing on? Thank you, Mayor. And thank you all. I appreciate all the hard work you do, having served in local government myself. I know it's not an easy job, so I congratulate you on the fact that this city runs so smoothly. And I remember sitting with Eric before one of the sessions and said, "So what do you guys need?" And he looked at me and said, "Nothing." You don't hear that much, so it's just a real statement. Now, there were a couple things we did try to do, and you've heard about one of them. We actually, in what turned out to be a tough budget year, which wasn't supposed to, well, it was supposed to be, and then it wasn't, and then it ended up. We did manage to get, as you heard from my colleague, Senator Campbell, a couple $100,000 for seawall restoration. Having lived in North Bay Village, where I was mayor, I had a seawall, and I can tell you, if you got one, there's nothing more important than that. So we're happy to see that. We would have liked to have gotten a little more, but as Senator Campbell said, I have to really thank, Ron Book and his team, Rana, they're just amazing. And there is a difference between having them on your team and having somebody else. There just is. So we're very pleased that that actually got some funding. What happened was, this originally they said, oh, well, this budget year is going to be better. And then there was that hurricane, that little thing. And then it wasn't a good budget year. But then they found some money, and it looked like it might be okay. And then, of course, we had just near, more than halfway through session, the awful tragedy of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. And that was not only sad and tragic, but trying to find money to do some of the things that the legislature committed to do meant that there wasn't the money that had been expected to do some other things. And frankly, making our schools harder is a good goal, but doing it at the expense of funding other educational initiatives is not the right answer. So, like a lot of people, I was very disappointed in the final budget. I do want to take a minute and, in that context, talk about what the school safety and firearms bill did. A very, very controversial bill and a very difficult one. I've tried for years to get more money for school safety. I introduced a bill in 16 in 16 and in 17 to have more school resource officers and to have the state pick up part of the funding for that. Neither year did my esteemed colleagues see fit to even give me a hearing in one committee on those bills. When this tragedy occurred on a Wednesday night in the middle of February, the 14th to be exact, in case you've forgotten that, on Valentine's Day. That was a Wednesday. The very next morning, on Thursday morning, I filed my bill from 16 and 17 as an amendment to a bill titled Student Safety that was being heard in a committee that I sit on, and in Judiciary Committee. Rather than hear my bill, my amendment that had been my bill, they temporarily passed the entire piece of legislation I attached it to, and it was a piece of legislation sponsored by the House majority leader, one of the main Republican leaders in the legislature, rather than hear my bill. So imagine my surprise when, a week or so later, the governor takes my entire proposal, including a ratio of 1 school security officer per 1,000 students, because for a big school like Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, one's not enough. Multiple entrances, multiple buildings. Took the bill and took my bill and put the whole thing in there. Good. It's not about getting recognized. It's about getting results. So I was pleased that happened, and that made it through. There were some other very good things in that bill. Banning bump stocks. Very good. Raising the age to buy a long gun from 18 to 21. Very good. Insisting on a 3-day waiting period for all gun purchases. Very good. Expanded background checks, though still not universal. Very good. There were things that the bill could have done but didn't. It didn't ban assault weapons. But it wasn't ever going to do everything, and we say, especially up there, let not the perfect be the enemy of the good. Representative Good, by the way, is very fond of that statement. The most important thing in that bill has gotten maybe the least attention, and that was a proposal by my colleague, Representative Berman, soon to be Senator Berman in a few days, Lori Berman, a wonderful member. And she picked up on something that's been done in a few other places around the country called risk prevention orders. And there's not a more important thing that we did. You know, they talk about who missed what, all this fixation on trying to blame somebody. I mean, that's part of our psyche, goes back, many years, but I mean, you may have remembered the discussion, if you paid attention in history, about who lost China. Always a finger point. Was it the FBI? My friend and wonderful law enforcement officer, Sheriff Scott Israel, who's really being unfairly targeted by virtue of the fact that the Republicans love having a Democrat to blame. The Department of Children and Families, the state's quick to point a finger at everybody else but not themselves. But the answer, candidly, and I don't want to take too much time, Mayor, we could talk about this for a long time, and I know you have an agenda, but this bill, this topic, I mean, this ripped our hearts out. If some of those, quote, red flags or warning signs had been caught, what would they have done? If the FBI had shown up at this young man's house, unless he had committed a crime, and there's some people say, oh, it was assault, probably not. If they showed up and he said, no, I was just blowing off steam, I was mad, but I wouldn't do anything, there wasn't a thing they could do. They couldn't arrest him, and they couldn't even take the weapons. But now, thanks to the provision that Representative Lori Berman authored, and that is in this final bill, we have something called risk protection orders. And if you think that a member of your family or your next door neighbor, your nephew, your neighbor, whoever, is a danger, you can call law enforcement. They can go out, they can interview that person. There's a couple of different versions. Rep. Berman wanted it to include family members could make the call, and there was some concern about that it could be abused in a domestic violence situation. They have it's a terrible issue, domestic violence, and a very serious issue, but it's also something that's sometimes misused in divorce situations. So they said, no, leave it with law enforcement. But law enforcement now can go and interview that person. They have to give them due process. But they can haul you into court, make you appear in front of a judge. I think it's 14 days notice, because we do have due process rights in this country. And if the judge finds that you're a risk, they can protect society against that risk. They can take your weapons. They can take them, they can hold them for a year, and then it can be sought again if you haven't gotten better. I can't imagine. Now that's separate and apart from things like the Baker Act, which really is only for 72 hours, and unless you're committed, they got to give you back your guns. That's a really important thing, a real step forward. Unfortunately, they came up with something that most of us, certainly in my caucus, voted unanimously against. A provision to arm either teachers, or eventually they pulled it back to school personnel. Certain school personnel. That's a terrible idea. Now, we're not going to see it here. The law says that both the school board or superintendent and the county sheriff, which every county in Florida has but us, we have a different name, have to agree to have it. So you're not going to see that in Dade or Broward or Palm Beach. In fact, even a lot of rural counties, smaller counties, are saying no way they're going to do it. It's a bad idea. It's a liability nightmare. But they insisted on putting that in the bill. So at the risk of going on a little too long here, I'll just tell you that I said that they had put a poison pill in the gaming bill, which was more money for charter schools instead of public schools. They put a poison pill in the tax cut with money for vouchers that shouldn't be being spent. And we voted unanimously against those because of those poison pills. But as I said on the floor of the House, they put a poison pill in this gun bill, this arming teachers, but like Socrates, that day I swallowed the poison. Because we could not take these young people and the parents of murdered kids and send them home with nothing. We couldn't do that. So some of us voted for the bill. I was one. I'm glad there are a lot of good things in it. I really think that this arming school personnel is a tragic mistake, and if anybody puts it into play, I really think it will cost lives. Some teacher who's great on the range and shooting at a piece of paper won't be prepared to be shot back at, or just to have someone duck or move. Some child is going to end up being hit. And woe be the teacher or coach or whoever it is who's not in uniform, who's waving that gun around when SWAT shows up and doesn't hit the ground with it quickly enough. Because we expect too much. How do they know? I honestly think that that proposal, if implemented, will result in loss of life. And for me to vote for something that could actually cost lives, but the lives lost, every life is precious and every life would be tragic to lose. But I'm hoping that the good things in that bill will lead to those losses of life not being counted in 17s or 26s like Sandy Hook or 49 like at Pulse. So again, as I said on the floor of the House, this was Sophie's choice. This was having to decide to do something that will probably cost lives, because the failure to act would cost even more lives. A very difficult moral position to be in. And that brings us back to the budget. At least there was some money in this budget overall. There was money for Florida Forever Restoration, $100,000, when the legislature had flouted the will of the voters who voted to pass that program. That's a good thing. But then we come to education. The education funding was bad. It was inadequate. It was a disgrace. But I found it necessary to vote up on that budget. There were some good things in it. But at the end of the day, also, we made a commitment in passing that school safety and gun bill that money was actually going to be spent for more resource officers and for other provisions that were the hardening of schools. And then to turn around and vote down the very budget that promised that money, I'm sorry, but we try not to engage in hypocrisy to that level. So, just to conclude, an unhappy session, from dealing with the hurricane damage at the beginning, to attacks on our public schools, to more attacks on local governments, on city and county governments, from people who seem to believe, as I pointed out to them, they believe wrongly that they get smarter when they walk into that Capitol building. They don't, and they routinely forget that the very same constituents who showed the wisdom to elect them to the legislature are the very same constituents who show the same wisdom when they select local government officials at the city or county or school board level. An unhappy session. I did get one bill through, that's a miracle, a bill just to repeal a statute that's already been declared unconstitutional that has to do with these disgraceful write-in candidates who run for office and just are there as a political tool to close primaries. We can't eliminate that completely, but at least we could eliminate this one unconstitutional statute and bring that law into line with the rest of it. So pretty hard as a Democrat. That's, by the way, of my 9 bills, that's the only one I even got a hearing on in committee. With that said, we're hopeful that without the specter of a governor's race, cabinet races, and everything looming over us, perhaps next session will be better, because hope springs eternal. And I'll tell you this, to go up there and endure it, you have to be an optimist. So I'm looking forward to a more fruitful and productive session next year, when actually only the 3rd Dade County in history will be the Speaker of the Florida House, Jose Oliva from Hialeah. Not too long ago, there was now our U.S. Senator Marco Rubio, and the first was my old friend and mentor and model, Dick Pettigrew, who had it back in the early 70s and was one of the first campaigns that I ever worked in, a great man. With that said, if anybody has any question, I'd be happy to entertain it, but if not, it is a privilege to serve you, and by you, I mean not only those of you seated at the dais, but all of our friends and neighbors. You know, I'm an Aventura resident, proud of it. All of our friends and neighbors here in Aventura that give me the privilege of having the voice that I have in the Florida legislature. I'm honored to be able to serve, and happy, as I said, to entertain any questions or just to go sit quiet.
Commissioner Mizrahi?
Thank you. I just have a question. What happened with the emergency power for the nursing homes?
About half of that went through. There were some actions on nursing homes that are still going to take place, but not ALFs, I think is where they ended up. Yeah, ALFs got left out. They shouldn't. I don't know. It's hard to believe they have a better lobby than the nursing homes, but switch. Does ALFs too? Okay. I stand corrected on that. But the bottom line is, I think we have missed the boat on that. We had a whole committee that was supposed to look at, hurricane issues. And the problem is, it's not just about power. The one terrible, tragic case in Hollywood, they actually had a generator. What failed was their air conditioning. And, what do you do if you have an air conditioning system and it breaks? And what if you can't get a part? When should evacuations become mandatory? When do you have to find a place to take every single resident because they're at risk? Remember, we're basically living on the edge of a large swamp that until we had air conditioning, this was just considered uninhabitable. That's why one of our 2 statues in the whole statuary in Congress is Dr. John Gorey, who invented air conditioning. Without it, pretty much everything south of Ocala is unlivable. So I think we have a lot more to do, but there were some advances made on generators. Like I said, there's the conditions in some of these facilities in general are not good to begin with, and if you add in and look at, issues like air conditioning breaking down, how long can somebody be expected to survive that's already in frail health in 100-degree heat?
Thank you so much.
Okay, Joe, I really want to thank you. You two made us very welcome. Tallahassee's a tough place, and again, we appreciate all of your efforts on behalf of the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Both you and Senator Campbell had a rough session. The next person, but I have to, and she's here, Rhonda Brown, I have to recognize you. I think she walked 30 miles with Commissioner Weinberg and me from one end of Tallahassee to the other into everybody's office, got us appointments with every single person that we had asked to see. You're absolutely amazing. We give Ron the credit, but Rhonda, you do the hard work, and I think he knows that. And I'm sorry Kelly's not here tonight, too. What an amazing staff. And with that, Ron, we'd love to hear your update. Ron Book. Amazing.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, Madam City Manager, Mr. City Attorney, nice to see you all. A lot's been said, but a lot's been left to be covered. When we started the legislative session, we started at one of the most odd periods that I can remember in the 44 years that I've been going to Tallahassee. If you think about where it started and literally having come full circle at where it ended, the only thing that Senator Campbell and Representative Geller left out was we really left out that it started with all of the sexual harassment scandal. That's where it started. It didn't start with Hurricane Irma. It didn't start with Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. It started with the sexual harassment investigation. And in fact, it had the Capitol paralyzed. We were supposed to have our first set of committee hearings in September. While the sexual harassment stuff had begun to bubble up, because remember, Madam Mayor, Commissioner Weinberg, others that had visited Tallahassee last year, it really had started a year ago. It started with the Jeff Clemens investigation and the Clemens, if you will, resignation. It started with a number of lawmakers under investigation, under review, and oh me, oh my, what should we do? And this was way before there was a Me Too movement in America or the state of Florida or in any local community. So Irma comes along and it freezes everything. No committee meetings in September. We roll into October. Everybody's focused on what are we going to do about the hurricane, but everybody's focused over here is how do we protect ourselves? What is this really going to lead to? When's the next body going to drop? When's the next shoe going to drop? When am I going to look up and the sword is going to come collapsing down in the middle of my brain? Well, that's right. That meant they had brains because people who have operated in the culture that has been described in the judge's report would say that there really were people acting without brains. So we sort of muddle our way through November. They're still not hearing bills in committees. Why? Because they didn't know what was coming next. And so we really dealt with a few reports here and a few reports there, and not many bills getting to even the reference line. And so we made our way through, and I'm going to come full circle, and I'm going to come back to this in a minute, but I'm remiss if I don't open with how the process opened and how it came full circle and ended with a thud. And we are fortunate. Senator Campbell, Representative Geller, worked aggressively to try to make sure that issues of concern of this community and the other local governments that they represent, which share what you represent, share what your population believes are important issues, Commissioner Weinberg, when it comes to condominium law. They share with what you care about, Madam Mayor, when you talk about 47 lousy cents in a base student allocation as somehow being acceptable. They share your interest in what we do to balance the interests of traditional public schools and those that are considered to be charter public schools. Because so many people, Madam Mayor, Commissioners, Madam Manager, so many people still don't understand that charter schools are in fact public schools. They forget that. That doesn't mean that the charter schools should be rating, if you will, public education capital outlay, acronym PICO. Doesn't mean that should happen, because when the charter law was passed under Governor Bush, that representation chiseled like it was being chiseled on tablets upon high and brought down to the communities, it said, yes, but we will never touch public education capital outlay money for charters. It's sacred. It wasn't so sacred as we know. But what did happen? When I talked to you all before session, what did I tell you was going to happen? I said it was going to be more of the same crap, more of the same attacks on local government's home rule authority. I told you it was coming, and I told you it had already been here, and I told you it wasn't going away, and it's not going away. But let's talk about what didn't happen. Dockless bicycle sharing died. Impact fee bill died. Vacation rental bill died. County municipal public officers and employees bill died. CRA bill dead. MPO bill to redo everything and stick it to communities like ours dead. Government accountability dead. Red light camera repeal dead. Beach renourishment not the way you wanted it dead. Local tax referendum dead. Election dates dead. Tree timber, tree cutting, vegetation trimming, taking away your ability to regulate on your own dead. Parking garage back up in parking, oh my goodness, dead. Public records bill dead. Interruption of services bill dead. 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 Now, did it mean everything died? No. Let me tell you what passed that the League of Cities didn't like, and with all due respect, Mayor, Commissioners, Madam Manager, I'm sorry. It passed. And that's the PTSD bill for first responders that a senator that shares my last name sponsored because it was needed. Because it was needed. Because to think that a police officer, a firefighter, who goes to the scene of a crime or goes to an accident and pulls a dead 3-month-old out of a burning car or a burning house, or better yet, the woman and her husband that was the impetus of the bill, who a year and a half ago showed up to a crime scene where the mother killed her 3 children and attempted suicide. And the woman takes this 3-month-old baby and attempts to save the baby's life. Blood everywhere. The baby dies in her arms, and the mother confesses. Now, the law, shocking as it was to me, I'm a guy, David Wolpin, been around a long time, shocking that the law says that that policeman or that firefighter had to have an accompanying physical injury in order to take advantage of mental health counseling is disgusting and absurd. And with all due respect to the League of Cities, they were fundamentally wrong when they opposed it, which you might know when they realized what a terrible public relations nightmare that was to local governments, reversed their position in the closing hours of the legislative session and decided to support it. It passed. Linear facilities passed. Opioid controlled substance bill passed. Condominium bill that did not do what we wanted it to do, but a cleanup, passed. The bill that everybody wants to talk about, that I personally and my daughter was personally involved with, was the school safety bill. If I took my telephone and I opened up the photos that we took walking through the crime scene, it would set your hair on fire, those of us that have hair. Just, Mark, you're supposed to chuckle a little bit because I don't have much more. But it would set your hair on fire. My daughter and I walked through the crime scene for the first time early afternoon on Thursday. That day we walked through the crime scene with lawmakers we helped facilitate, bring down from Tallahassee 4 times that day. The media has never been in the school. The media has not been allowed within 3/4 of a mile of the school. Chief, I don't know how police officers were able to process that crime scene. I do not understand how the forensic scientists and the medical examiner teams did that without long-term psychological impacts. Commissioners, we didn't walk around a body line, or 2, or 5, or 6, but 7 or 8. We didn't simply look at some little blood drops or some small pools of blood. Masses of blood puddles, some of which were still bright red and wet. We felt that this tragedy was in our home, in our backyard. School, physically across the street from my daughter's Senate district, literally across the street. 70+% of the student body at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas came from her Senate district, and virtually all 17 were constituents, or their family members were her constituents. We didn't think about what was right or wrong. We thought about, what do? You do what you can do. You use your influence. You use your access. Here's what we were sure of right away. Something had to happen, and I heard Joe allude to some of what occurred quickly. Mayor, let me tell you something. There was already $40 million in the Senate budget for school mental health. I can tell you that the conversations that took place that Wednesday night, February 14th, at 11, 12, and 1 o'clock in the morning about what needed to be done before anybody had much of anything. And then very early the next morning, Senator Book and Senator Passidomo, who chaired the K-12 funding committee, who had put the $40 million in way before there was a Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting massacre, The carnage was mind-boggling, frightening. How do we get it to 100 million? Because that's what Runcie said was the right number. He said it was the right number, at least for now. It isn't enough, Enid. But you know what? We were in the midst of a session with 15 days left. We were already in the conference process. What the hell do? You got to do something because and by the way, the movement wasn't a fraction of what it is today. It was, what can we do? Well, you got to get the leadership here. You got to get the Senate president and the president designate and the president designate. And you got to get the speaker and the speaker designate and the appropriations chairs there. They got to walk through this. They have to see it. They have to see it. 44 years, not even what we did, and we did some unbelievable things after Hurricane Andrew. We did stuff we couldn't do again now. When we created that Hurricane Andrew Trust Fund, and we set a base year on sales tax, and the rest of it came home here, so we could rebuild, could do that again. You got to do it in the heat of what occurs. Nothing in 44 years, and I doubt anything in 150 years of Florida history will ever have made any of us more proud than how swiftly these people moved to put a package together. Is it everything? Hell no. Do not get so caught up in perfect that you lose the good to the very good. And if you take a bill that everybody agreed, should we have outlawed AR-15s? You bet. But to say the ends justify the means, kill a bill, and all good it does, because we're going to hold Republicans accountable. The ends justify the means. The blood is on their hands. That is a BS response, Mayor, Commissioners, Madam Manager, Mr. City Attorney. Shouldn't be acceptable to anybody. And it wasn't. And that's why you got an age 21 to buy an AR-15. Should it have been 25? We tried. You didn't read a lot about it, but we tried. The 3-day cooling off period, oh my God, it's more important than probably anything else in the bill, and it's the one thing that the NRA wanted to take an AR-15 out and shoot dead. Why do you think the governor was encouraging them to trade out the Marshall Plan, because it was still called the Marshall Plan at that point, now called the Guardian Plan? Why do you think the governor was prepared to trade that to get rid of the 3-day cooling off period? Because he was trying to find a way to keep everybody happy. If we had not passed that bill, we'd have been back in special session that Monday. And let me be real clear and real direct about something I know wouldn't have been in the bill that Monday. A 3-day cooling off period. So important. And when you take that and the age 21 and the outlawing of the bump stocks, and then you take all of the mental health stuff, the substantive stuff, that my good friend Steve Leifman, the authority in Florida, one of the authorities in America, on our county court bench, the acknowledged expert. He's been the Florida Supreme Court's designated judge on mental health for a decade and a half, who helped us write what needed to be in. Is it perfect? It is not. Are there going to be challenges? There are 9 challenges in Broward County in the courts now, and I say, ACLU, you should be ashamed of yourselves. Ashamed of yourselves. Because occasionally, you got to do what's right. Let them go find another lawyer. This is our community. And we have a responsibility to respond to the children that are dead and those families and all those grieving children. One day soon, the lights are going to dim. The TV cameras are going to stop rolling. And these kids that have been surviving on adrenaline, on this high of making a difference, it's not fixing the underlying PTSD and other traumatic impacts that they had. It's not going away. So Enid, when you say to me 100 million ain't enough, you don't need to tell me it ain't enough, and it's going to come back. And it's going to come back because it must. Because we told them, they told them. It's just but a first step. But to go home and do nothing? Proudest moment I have ever had in 44 years in that place that David Wolpin knows I love so well. I continue to go to Florida's capital year in and year out because I still get a rush. I still get a rush about working on the impossible. Not what's lining my pockets with money, because I didn't have a client in any of this. It was simply the right thing to do. It was simply the right thing to do to find the votes to pass it. And let's be clear. Let's be clear. Our local lawmakers were the difference. It passed the Florida Senate by 1 vote. It passed the Florida House by 10 votes. We don't find the Democrats to replace the peeled off Republicans because the mechanics of it, you want to talk about the unimaginable. You have the Republicans who are clearly Second Amendment, NRA sympathizers. They peeled a bundle of them off. If you'd asked me if there could have been an instance where an incoming presiding officer, Senate or House, incoming, ascending, could not control his or her members as they're ascending, I'd have bet the bank on it, Mayor. Bet the bank it doesn't happen. They defied their incoming presiding officers. Galvano in the Senate, Oliva in the House, defied them. Without those Democrats, and my daughter was the deciding vote in the Senate, and our friends here were the deciding votes in the House. Without those 10, the bill dies. Without those 10, we're in a special session, and there ain't no 3-day cooling off period. And somebody who thinks that's not important is not in touch with reality on what the mental health issues are all about. I will stop on it. I will stop on it because I can go on the school safety bill for another 2 hours. But something that's important to our community, that's important. That's why we're supposed to go there. That's why we go to the Capitol, to be there, to be present, to be involved, to be engaged, to make a difference, to make an impact. Commissioner Mizrahi is going to ask me about medical cannabis. So before she asks me about medical cannabis, I am going to answer the far left's question. I told you before session they were not going to do anything at all, and if they did, what did I tell you they would do? They would fix the black farmer issue. They fixed the black farmer issue. That was all they were going to do. And for the record, for the benefit of everybody else, months and months ago, Commissioner Mizrahi came to visit with me at Eric's urging to talk about it. I didn't lie to her. I didn't cheat on her. I didn't mislead her. I didn't stretch. I didn't give her one word of encouragement because, what I tell you, I don't speak with a filter. I tell it to you the way it is. Sometimes you'll like it. Sometimes you won't like it. But here's what you'll never do. You'll never wonder where I am on an issue, and you'll never wonder whether I'm telling you the straight scoop, because I only know one way, the right way, the straight way. You got what was going to happen. Couple of other things. I jotted some notes down. Mayor, commissioners, do not give up on where we are on K-12 funding. Do not give up. Write this down. It is 7:20, 7:21. Remember I said this. I expect there will be a gaming special session the week of April 23rd. I believe it will more likely than not be a 3-day session. They may call it for 5. They should not be there more than 2 days to do this. They'll find a reason to stay around. That will create a base of recurring revenue. It will take assuming the Indians come to play, and by the way, they'll pass a bill without the Indians. The Indians want to stay over here and smoke their peace pipe around their little campfire. They can do that. They will be left out. They will move on. They live in another country, Madam Manager. Sorry, they don't live where you and I live. They live in some donut hole out there. Just ask them. They tell you so. I'd put a toll to get in. Serious toll. That said, I think a gaming bill will pass. I think a gaming bill will pass that will provide significant new revenue. New revenue above, Mayor, what the tribe is currently paying. Because I consider the tribe money current money, not new money. $300 million a year. It's not new money. It's been coming in. Whether we can spend it or not, whether it's been escrowed, I don't care. It's there. But it will presumably give the governor the ability to go back out prospectively and complete a negotiation with the tribe, putting that money into a recurring GR pot up front with the condition preceding being a compact ultimately gets entered. I believe over here they will meet an edict of a true contraction of gaming statewide, which is what the Speaker is intent on doing. I believe it will be a bill when it comes out that will have conditions for which, if you want to stop racing your dogs, you got to go buy a facility somewhere, turn the license in, and shutter the facility. Go sell it for something else, but you can't run at that place ever again. That place is closed forever. License taken. If you're in one of 5 of the 8 counties that have had a referendum on slots, but have not yet had the authorization legislatively to put slots in, I believe those 5 will have to go buy Joe Geller's facility in Palatka. Got a low handle. He's got a willing buyer in me, because I need one over in the Bonita Springs, Naples, Fort Myers area. I will buy it. I will put a close for future business on it, turn the license in as a condition to get my slots license. And they are going to change the rule. These people that have been holding on to gaming permits, but they have a $100,000 a year gross handle, they're going to shut those guys down. Why are they going to shut them down? Because A, all these other guys are going to have to buy licenses to either decouple or to get slots. But second, they're going to require those facilities to pay $1 million minimum guarantee for their poker license and $1 million guarantee to run their gaming, their pari-mutuel. Most of those places can't do it. They're losing money with a $100,000 handle, but they're losing quantifiable pocket change at 100. You start talking about having to pledge $2 million a year, you're going to go find a buyer for your place so they can close it willingly. Why did I bother to tell you all of that? I could have told it to you in 35 seconds. I told it to you because Representative Geller opened the door to that not even a half a dollar, 47-cent increase for the rest of you. The acronym is BSA, Base Student Allocation, because then I believe, and in it I had this conversation at my local Whole Food store on Sunday with Bob Runcie, who walked in. Just happened to be coincidence. It happens to be the president of the association. It is incumbent upon Alberto, Bob, Palm Beach, Hillsborough, Pinellas, Orange, Duval, to keep the pressure on. Keep it on. Keep it on, and make sure the public in June, in July, and the dead of August gets the pain of what you're going to cut. Johnny's no longer going to get. Johnny's no longer going to get that extra class. Mary's no longer going to get that extra class. And oh, by the way, we're really going to hit them in the gut because we're going to get rid of some, what do they call those? AP and IB classes? We're going to cut some of those too. And send a message and build the pressure as we get close to the primary. As we get close to the primary, you build that heat. We already know it's a competitive election cycle. That's why I went to great lengths. So you understand, Enid, there will be real money there to solve some of this problem. So I said I'd come full circle. I didn't talk about the Constitutional Revision Commission. I'll leave you alone on that. Style and Drafting Committee of the CRC is meeting starting today. Style and Drafting is the committee that puts the committee, the full commission, has already said these are the issues we want to look at for possible inclusion on the ballot. Those issues all got 22 votes. Now it goes to Style and Drafting. It's a 9-member committee stacked with 7 of the governor's appointees. They can take stuff out that other people thought were in, and they can send it to the full commission. To put something back in at the full commission will not take a simple majority vote. Simple majority vote would be like 17 or 18 votes of those present. It will require 22 votes to put something in, and it requires each of those measures to get voted on again affirmatively by 22 people present. And if there are only 22 present and only 20 vote yes, it doesn't get on the ballot. There are going to be meaningful changes. In the world of self-preservation, I confess, there's a provision out there that says, truth, can't make it up, that says local governments can't hire people like us in the future. And they're packing that into the ethics package. Here's the big secret. Your lobbyist found a way to get it out. So that will be coming out of that proposal between now and the end of the day tomorrow. And actually the amendment to pull it out is already filed. And I believe we've probably got a minimum of 8 out of the 9 votes to vote yes on that provision. But it's an example. There are some really bad things that they do to local governments. Really bad things. I mean, you want to talk about disincentives to serve in public office? They're creating it. Take a look at Proposal 39. Take a look at it. It's terrible. Any of you ever want to do anything outside of what you're doing, you leave here and you think you want to do something in government, forget about it. Oh, by the way, you could have a problem with it where you're employed now. You don't do anything unethical. You don't do anything bad. Oh, by the way, you too might have a problem because you do work on a consultant basis for the school district. That's how absurd Proposal 39 is. The problem is it's going to get swept up with a bunch, and we'll see where chips fall. It is not too late. We have many people from Miami-Dade on the Constitutional Revision Commission. Jeanette Nunez as an example. Felix Diaz as an example. Former U.S. Attorney Bobby Martinez as an example. Woman whose name escapes me from Holland and Knight, another example. Chris Smith from Broward, another example. It's not too late. I will stop by simply saying, you know, the sexual harassment bill didn't pass, and the human trafficking bill didn't pass. Sort of surprising with where we started, with all the air that sucked out of the room in September, October, November, December, and January, and people walking around on eggshells. And then 17 people got massacred, and $400 million got committed to school hardening. 1,000 new school resource officers, and I would add, because it is important to you. The next piece, you just, Madam Manager. Everybody, including my good friend Representative Geller, are talking about the 1,000 new SROs that are in the bill, and everybody's talking about the Guardian program, and it ain't never going to get administered in any of the urban districts in Florida. They're right. Let me tell you what's going to happen. They're going to take that money. They're going to take the Guardian program. Like, you remember, what day did I say it was? It's the 3rd of April, right? It's not April Fool's Day, and it's now 7:32. Remember, I said it again. The governor, I believe, is going to do is set a date that school districts and their sheriffs can decide they're going to implement or not implement. And there are going to be a finite number of days to exercise and opt in. And when it's done, the door is going to slam close, probably midsummer. Why? Because that's a politically good time for a guy running for the U.S. Senate. You know what they're going to do? They're going to go to the Legislative Budget Commission, where they have authority to make shifts within certain boundaries. They're going to take the balance of that money, which I think I'll be off by a couple of dollars. But what's a couple of dollars amongst friends with an just shy of an $89 billion budget, 88.7. They may be able to take somewhere between 40 and 55 million and give that to school resource officers, and that is when you make a difference. Because while we may not get to one SRO per 1,000, those that get that extra allocation, which will be places like Miami-Dade, they will be places like Broward County, that will make a difference. How do you send kids to school? How do you send kids to school? And your mid-afternoon is a text message from your child. There's an active shooter in the school. I'm hiding under my desk. I'm hiding in a broom closet. If I never speak to you again, I love you with all of my life and all of my heart. My daughter and I went to a couple of the funerals. I have a real hard time doing this without crying. But the young man, Peter Wang, was junior ROTC member, standing on the 3rd floor, Chief. On the 3rd floor, all this young man wanted to do in his life was go to West Point. All this little 15-year-old needed to do was run. He was at the door. But he realized that if he held that door, more kids could get out. And he did. And the shooter sees him. And what does that shooter do? Shoots 5 bullets in his head. And the kid drops to the ground. And he shoots his head off. Saturday, my daughter says to me, Dad, we got to come back from Tallahassee, and we got to go to that funeral. He was a hero. I said, yes, but there were several heroes. No, Dad, this guy was a special hero. They came here. The parents don't speak English. have found a way to make a living for their family. We got to get that kid a degree from West Point, and we got to do that before Tuesday's funeral. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I tell her she's nuts, but I've told her that before. It didn't work. She wanted to walk from California to Washington. Didn't. And that's the ideas. Said it's Saturday. We can try Monday. It won't be in time. We managed to get a contact from Ted Deutsch. We called Commandant about 4:45 on Saturday. By 2 o'clock Sunday, a lieutenant general from West Point called the two of us. He says, we're going to do what you want and then some. But we need you to call the family because we want to make this presentation at the funeral. I said, of course, General. But just met this guy. We're going to admit him, but we'll have some more goodies. And they come down, and we're going to send a captain to present it. We meet the captain by phone Sunday night, talked to him several times Monday, pick him up at the airport. He brought the framed commission, the appointment to West Point, the young man's name on it, framed, to hand to the parents. The second thing they presented the parents with, when you're a graduating senior, you get a bust of a cadet. Young boy's name engraved on the bust with his presumptive graduation date of June 2025. And then they have a seriograph of West Point and only give in heroic situations. They had that engraved to present to the parents as well of their young hero that they could know had his life's ambition met of going to West Point. I've heard some people criticize the process for not doing some things. A lot of things died in those last 2 weeks because this is what people were focused on. None of us should want our children or our grandchildren to ever feel unsafe when we drop them at school. None of you, not a manager, none of you who run these charter schools in this city should ever have to feel that we are running institutions that are ticking time bombs. None of them should have to have his men and women guarding those schools the way Marjorie Stoneman Douglas is being guarded today. That notion that we're going to require people to bring clear backpacks to school. I've always thought metal detectors in schools were offensive, but they've obviously become necessary. But to somehow try to blame the sheriff for a deputy not doing what he should have done just clouds the issue, is what it does. A single person was responsible for that, and he is sitting in the damn jailhouse. Thank you.
Ron, as always, you take my breath away. I think we've known each other better than 30 years. I know the passion. I talked to you after you were ankle deep in blood, you and Lauren both. Please express my thanks, and I'll do it myself too, for the PTSD bill. It is so incredibly important. And I can say, whether it's the Homeless Trust, whether it's education, for the time of over 30 years, you have been on the right side of issues, not the political side. Your passion's real, because we've talked a number of times about this, and I'm so grateful that Lauren is there to be able to have a rational voice with what's going on.
And I'm remiss if I don't thank you, the manager, the commissioners, Howard, for being out and again being supportive of her 1,500-mile walk in my shoes walk. She considers Aventura her home. Her foundation offices are here. We'll never leave this city. We will be here for a long time. Parents are never supposed to be objective about their kids. But there's a great story that just came out today in one of the magazines. She's the first freshman Democrat or Republican to chair a budget committee in the history of the Florida legislature. It's never happened before. So, thank you.
Anybody? Okay. Again, thank you so much, Ron. And Rana?
By the way, you were right about Ron.
Yeah. Let's all take a breath for a minute. Let me ask if any member of the commission would like to remove an item from the consent agenda. Okay, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Shelley. Can I have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Landman. Can I ask the clerk for a roll call vote?
Commissioner Landman,
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Mizrahi,
Yes.
Commissioner Narodsky,
Yes.
Commissioner Weinberg,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Shelley, Mayor Weissman.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay, we now move to our zoning hearings, the quasi-judicial public hearing. I'm going to ask the city attorney to read the procedures for both the quasi-judicial hearings and to read the first item to be considered.
Thank you, Mayor. This evening, we have two quasi-judicial items, items 6A and 6B. 6A concerns the Charter High School. 6B concerns kosher liquor package store. The quasi-judicial statement set forth in the agenda is incorporated into the record. Any person who desires to offer testimony on the matters will do so under oath. And I would, at this time, as you stated, I will read the first item, following which the city clerk will administer the oath to all witnesses for both of the items. First item is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Aventura, Florida, granting approval of a variance from Section 31171B6 of the City Code for reduced number of parking spaces and variance from Section 31171D2 of the City Code for reduced number of loading spaces and variance from Section 31221K2 of the City Code for reduced width of buffer strips and variance from Section 31221K3 of the City Code for reduced spacing of parking lot islands, all for the Aventura High School, also known as Don Sofer Aventura High School, to be located at 3151 Northeast 213th Street, City of Aventura, providing for an effective date.
Can I have a motion for approval of the resolution?
I'll motion.
Made by Commissioner Narodsky. Can I have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Mizrahi. I'm going to ask our Community Development Director, Joanne Carr, to present the staff report.
Mayor, if I could just interrupt for 1 second. I forgot to mention the city clerk at this time will administer the oath of office to all witnesses.
If you will be
Thank you.
speaking on either item 6A or 6B, either for the variance for the parking spaces or for Sarah's tent, I need you to raise your right hand and be sworn in at this time for either item, 6A or 6B. Do you solemnly swear or affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, or nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Just for the record, it's oath of witnesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been sworn in. I would like to enter the staff report into the record. The applicant, City of Aventura, is requesting variance from Section 31171 of the City Code for reduced number of parking spaces and for reduced number of loading spaces, and variance from section 221, of the city code for reduced width of buffer strips and reduced spacing of parking lot islands to facilitate construction of the Aventura Charter High School at 3151 Northeast 213th Street. Staff is recommending approval with the conditions that the plans submitted for permitting substantially comply with the plans submitted with this application, and that the building permit be issued within 12 months of the date of the approval resolution. I've got a location plan up so everybody can see where we are. This is Northeast 213th Street, Biscayne Boulevard. The school site is immediately adjacent to the Waterways Park. There's the aerial, so you can see the location of the Waterways Park. This is Aventura Lakes single home subdivision, Northeast 213th Street. It's a 2-acre site immediately to the west of Waterways Park. This next slide is the site plan for the Charter High School. The Charter School itself is in yellow highlight, and the gymnasium that will be built, the current basketball court on the Waterways Park is shown in yellow as well. The city proposes to construct a 4-story, 60-foot high, 53,400 square foot charter school. It has been designed to complement existing architecture of other city facilities by using similar colors and materials. There are 39 classrooms proposed with collaborative spaces, a dining and multi-purpose room with warming kitchen and pantry, administration office area, clinic, and storage. Again, the existing open-air basketball court on the Waterways Park will be replaced by a fully enclosed 10,250 square foot school gym. A total of 196 parking spaces will be shared between the school and the park site. A pedestrian bicycle walkway will connect the school to the school lobby, to the sidewalk on the north side of 213th Street, and it's in this location here. Bike racks are located at the school entry plaza. An 8-foot-high fence will enclose the perimeter of the school and connect to the existing fence on the park, with gates to secure both sites. Entry and exit will be by way of the existing entrance to the Waterways Park and by way of a new right-in, right-only entry-exit here at the west limit of the school site. There's separate stacking and drop-off areas for the buses, the large school buses, which is here, and for parent and drop-off and shuttle buses here. Other than the variances requested, the site plan meets the site development criteria of the Community Facilities District in which it's located and the other applicable sections of the City Code. Okay. We have 4 variances the city is requesting. The first variance is to allow 196 parking spaces where 209 spaces are required by code. There are 98 spaces on the school site itself. There will be 98 on the parks site, on the park site, again to be shared by both facilities. Parking is proposed to be limited to high school seniors only in year 3, so that's a ways down the road. So that will mitigate the loss of those few spaces, as well as the use of the shuttle buses, which again is designed to mitigate parking. The reduced number of spaces will accommodate anticipated staff and maximum staff, which is anticipated at 59. The second variance request, Susan? I'm sorry, Mary, do you have a question? Okay. The second variance request is to allow no loading spaces where 2 loading spaces are required by code. Deliveries can be accommodated, however, in the area next to the multi-purpose dining room through the loading doors there, and deliveries can be scheduled before arrival and after dismissal, so there'll be no disruption to circulation in the school. The third variance is to allow a minimum 5-foot wide landscape buffer strip along the north and west perimeters of the school parking lot. It's shown in green here. The city code requires a minimum 7-foot wide landscape buffer along parking lots. This will be about 6.5 at the north end and about 5 along the west limit. And although it is reduced, it still provides enough space to plant the trees and put the ground cover that we need to do there. The last variance is to allow individual rows of parking with more than 9 spaces in a row, where the code requires one landscaped island. There are 4 rows of parking with 10 parking spaces between islands. Those are shown with the green dots, here, 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 and here, and 2 rows where there's 11 spaces, and this is the visitor parking area. The site is joined, although we may lose a bit of landscaping in those parking islands. We do gain that extra parking space, and the school is joined to the Waterways Park site, which does provide landscape and open space. Staff has evaluated the 4 requests using the standards for review of variances in section 3176E1 of the City Code and finds that they do meet those standards. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Can I have a motion for approval of the resolution made by Vice Mayor Shelley, seconded by Commissioner Mizrahi? I did that already. Let me ask if any members of the commission have any questions. Okay. I'm going to open the item for public comment. Anyone in the public have any comments? Then I'm going to close this item for public comment and ask the clerk for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Landman?
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Mizrahi?
Yes.
Commissioner Narodsky?
Yes.
Commissioner Weinberg?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Shelley?
Yes.
Mayor Weissman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
I'm going to ask the city attorney to read Resolution B.
Thank you, Mayor. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Aventura, Florida, granting conditional use approval to permit the establishment of a kosher liquor package store located in the Commercial Plaza tenant space at Suite A1, 3565 Northeast 207th Street, City of Aventura, notwithstanding the spacing and distance requirements for the sale and service of alcoholic beverages regulated by Section 4-2A and Section 4-2B of the City Code, providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Can I have a motion for the approval of the resolution? Moved by Commissioner Weinberg, seconded by Commissioner Narodsky. I'm going to ask the Community Development Director, again, Joanne Carr, to present the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been sworn in. I would like to enter the staff report into the record. The applicant, Food of All Nations, Inc., doing business as Sarah's Tent, is requesting conditional use approval to establish a kosher liquor store within its tenant space at Suite 1A, 3565 Northeast 207th Street in the shops at the Waterways. Staff is recommending approval of the application with conditions. Here's the location plan. This is the shops at the Waterways Plaza on Northeast 207th Street, east of 34th Avenue. Sarah's Tent is located in the southwest corner of the plaza, the shopping plaza, which is right here. The marina's behind us here. This is Northeast 207th, Northeast 34th Street. The owner currently operates a 12,000 square foot kosher grocery store. Beer and wine are currently sold in the grocery store, and that is permitted as an exception under Chapter 4 of our city code. Beer and wine is allowed to be sold in grocery stores. The proposal is 450 square feet, more or less, of the existing interior space to be walled. For location of the kosher liquor store, there will be a new exterior door, and that's required because Florida liquor license law does not allow sale of liquor inside a grocery store. So he has to make a separate area for those sales. This is in the B2 zoning district. A liquor package store is allowed by city code in that district, so it's a permitted use. But we do have distance and spacing requirements of Chapter 4, and what they say is that if no establishment can be used for the sale of alcoholic beverages unless it's at least 1,500 feet away from another establishment that has a liquor license and at least 2,500 feet from a school or place of worship. So the applicant has provided a liquor survey. That liquor survey shows 4 restaurants within that 1,500 feet, but they're all exempt by the city code. Restaurants are exempted from that distance and spacing by Chapter 4. The reason they need conditional use is because there is one synagogue that's within 150 feet, and that's Young Israel Orthodox Synagogue, which is in I'll put the aerial back up, which is in the second floor of the office building here at the entrance to the Waterways Plaza. So that's why they're here to see for conditional use approval. During the application review process, the applicant met with myself and Chief Pegues to address some concerns that the police department had, and that's general concerns with the liquor store on security, lighting, and the applicant was very cooperative and has given us a letter saying that he will put some lighting there's a little alley just to the corner of the store here, lighting back there, and they do have a security guard. So he did address all the concerns that the Aventura Police Department had. The staff has reviewed the application using the standards for approval of conditional uses in Section 3173C of the City Code and finds that the application does meet those standards. Staff recommends approval with the following conditions. The first is that the approval is granted exclusively to this applicant, Food of All Nations, Inc., doing business as Sarah's Tent at Suite 1A 3565 Northeast 207th Street. That the use be established within 12 months of the date of the approval, failing which the approval will expire unless it is extended by motion of the City Commission. That the applicant obtain a state of Florida liquor license for package sales only with no consumption on premises. That the applicant provide responsible vendor training for its staff. That the applicant comply with the hours of operation in Section 4.3 of the City Code, and those hours are between 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. for package sales. That the applicant implement the security measures, and that's the security guard and lighting, that they have set out in their supplemental letter of intent, and that's attached to the staff report. That the liquor store be operated in conjunction with the adjacent grocery store only, and that the conditional use for the liquor store terminate in the event the grocery store use is terminated. That the sale of alcoholic beverages be terminated in the event that the City Commission determines after public hearing that the operation has created and or may tend to create a disturbance to the community. A public hearing shall be set if the city manager finds probable cause to believe that a disturbance has been created based on either complaints received or by the city manager's observation. This is a standard clause we generally request in all conditional use applications for alcoholic beverage uses. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any comments?
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, Sam Rupert of Samuel A. Rupert, PA. On behalf of the applicant, I have a representative of my client here who's willing to answer any questions you have. Ms. Carr has done an excellent job presenting our application. We won't take up any more of your time unless you have questions for us.
Commissioner Weinberg?
It's a question for Joanne. Do we have an ordinance that stops the sale of beer and wine in supermarkets at 10 p.m.? Is that something that you're familiar with?
Beer and wine, yes, at the grocery store hours,
And so then could it be sold later if it's in the freestanding, separate entrance?
These package sales, no. The hours have to be between 8 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Okay.
for this liquor store.
So for
So
example,
could you sell beer longer in the grocery store than liquor in the liquor store?
the answer I thought would be no. You're saying the answer is yes? Now, I'm confused. Is 10 p.m. the time when they both would have to close?
10 p.m. is the time that they would both have to close, unless, of course, the grocery store was closed.
Unless what?
The grocery store was closed earlier.
Right, but so for example, Publix, I believe, is open till 11, but the sale of wine, it won't scan after 10 p.m.
That's correct.
But let's say someone was at Winn-Dixie where they have the separate liquor store, package store. Can someone go in there after 10 p.m. and buy? No. Okay, so that's what I want to make. So this doesn't change anything as far as the hours. They're already selling beer and wine. Just now they'd be allowed to sell hard liquor
That's
with
correct.
separate entrance.
In a separate area, yes.
Which I find ironic that the reason why they need a variance is because of a Jewish house of worship being too close to the kosher liquor. So I don't know that that might be an advantage, right? It's easier to walk. Okay, thank you.
I have one question, Joanne. Did anybody contact the synagogue and did they have any issues?
The notice was sent to all property owners within 300 feet, so not specifically to tenants, no. The property was posted, so the and it's right at the entrance, so they would see that every day when they come in to the property. It's a large sign that they would see, and it's been there for 10 days.
But it would seem to me, if what Commissioner Weinberg said was right, that the only reason for the variance is because it's close to a synagogue, that the synagogue would have been contacted. I hate to think, I would think they wouldn't oppose, but I would have thought we would have made the effort to contact them.
I have had no public comment from any of the either public notice, the advertisement in the newspaper, or the property posting.
What about the applicant?
Madam Mayor, our client has been in contact with its neighbors. They're doing this to increase the services that they're providing. None of my client's principals are actually here tonight because of the holidays. So we have a representative, but not the principals. They are part of this community. They run the store for this community, and the purpose of the kosher liquor store is to provide additional services that they can't currently provide to the community, including the synagogue that is the cause for the application that we're here on today.
Are there any other questions? Okay, I'm going to open the item for public comment. Okay, there are no public comments, so I'm going to close it for public comment, and I'm going to ask the clerk for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Landman,
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Mizrahi,
Yes.
Commissioner Narotsky.
Yes.
Commissioner Weinberg,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Shelley. Mayor Weissman.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay. Items 7 through 9, resolutions, we have none. So I'm going to reports, and I'm going to ask if any members of the commission have any items to report. Commissioner Landman?
Will a representative from the Community Services Advisory Committee be doing a report this evening or no? So,
I don't see Jonathan Evans, but
okay, so I'd like to share a few upcoming events that this committee has helped put together. April 14th, we have our first ever Taste of Excellence. This is an event for adults. There's going to be wine and cheese available for sale. There's going to be music. It's going to be on the waterfront property right by our community arts center, our community center. And it's going to be a great event. It's right on our website. You could RSVP. And on the following Saturday, we're going to have a family-friendly event. We're going to have movie night at Founders Park. Gates open at 7. The movie will begin at 8. And I believe we're going to be showing Coco, right? So, we're trying to ensure that we have programs for people of all ages in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to open this meeting for public comment. If any members of the public have comment, Robert, yes?
First of all, happy Passover and happy birthday to Joanne Carr. She is my inspiration to go on. I need to put something to rest because the mayor wasn't shooting grants. So, I decided after looking for a replacement for me. I can't find one, so you're going to have to put up with me for 5 more years at least. Thank you.
Robert, thank you, and happy holidays, happy Passover to you, and we're more than happy to see you for as long as you want to come.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the public wish to speak? Okay. Is there, yes, Commissioner Narotsky? No? Oh, okay. All right, then I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Narotsky, can I have a second? Thank you. Meeting adjourned.